Dennis Simpson, Hot Springs Village Venues, here to see with Miss Dr. Mary Clifton today if you need your head examined. And we're back. Hey, Mary. Everybody, you and I know where it's going on. It's an inside joke. Why don't you explain to the nice people what you do?
I'm Dr. Mary Clifton. I'm the medical director of Swifty Med Cards. We do medical cards to help people get medical cannabis in states where cannabis is legal, either medically or recreationally.
Really? So, who's your patient? For example, in the village, who would be your patient? You would say somebody with a golf injury, somebody with PTSD. I mean, what do you do? What's the ones?
Most patients in Arkansas who are getting their medical cards are getting their cards for chronic pain or for PTSD. So, chronic pain is defined as a pain that you have dealt with for at least 6 months, but you haven't been able to come to a resolution of the problem. And PTSD, we confirm with a quiz. So if you complain of PTSD, we provide you with a 20-question quiz and confirm that. Yeah, Arkansas has some specific rules. The DEA has specific rules, of course. Health and Human Services. We have a lot of different regulatory bodies, so we just follow all of the rules from all of the regulatory bodies and make sure that you get a very compliant card. We're very
And you're
careful.
in how many states? You're in how many states, Mary?
Yeah, we're in 14 states. I've been running Swifty Med under Balanced Medicinals since 2015, and honestly, just doing it for vacation money. I was using it to pay for our ski trip every winter, just doing a few cards and just having fun. And then about 18 months ago, I thought, I wonder what would happen if I changed the marketing and approach this with a different strategy. Maybe I could build a really beautiful company because there's just so little transparency in medical cards. And there's a lot of people who start out getting a medical card for $50 and then they end up spending like $250 or even more. These crazy expensive cards, and there's not a lot of transparency, which is kind of true of medicine in general, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, and,
So.
and let's just the elephant in the room. There was a lot of snake oil. There's not hardly any anymore, but there was several at the time. Is that right?
I mean, I would say that people want to use cannabis. If you want to use cannabis for treatment of your chronic medical conditions, you want to use cannabis. You don't want to use something that was derived from hemp and concentrated, or people just want to use real marijuana. And in Arkansas, you've got great producers, great cultivators that are making really good products across the whole state. And especially in the Hot Springs area where you are, you've got Sweet 443. They do a great job. Really, one of the they're selling more product than basically everybody in the state. It's a very busy dispensary, so you're getting a lot of fresh product, and the bud tenders know what they're doing.
People don't think about this, but there is a shelf life, right?
Yeah, there's a shelf life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's good growers and bad growers. I mean, to some degree, testing, helps to identify people who are producing something that may not be as high quality as you would prefer. But in Arkansas, the growers and the producers are very compliant with all of the requirements. And you guys have access to really good, high quality cannabis that's grown right in your state.
Oh, and let me come back to that just for a minute. One of the ways that we got connected is that I was asking about my nephew who's going through colon rectal cancer. He and many others are still so reticent, even at that point when they're in significant pain, can't eat, don't want to eat, blah 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 blah. How does it help there?
Yeah, we talked about that, and really, and because my brother, that was what got me into cannabis, was that my brother died of colorectal cancer, and I never felt like I had any. I managed his hospice for the last 10 days of his life, and just never felt like I was on top of it. I never felt like I had his symptoms under control, and I started to wonder, like, what else could have been done to have made that whole circumstance just better, and had the experience be at least at least neutral instead of negative.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there is still a lot of stigma. I mean, even within seizure disorder and control of seizures, for example, which cannabis is extremely effective at. Reductions of like 50% in severe seizure syndromes in children, 50% of the frequency and severity of seizures. But it's the 13th drug that is typically chosen in seizure. People have tried literally everything, and then they think, oh, I should try cannabis. And here you have a product with very limited side effects, very well tolerated, super safe, easy to use. I mean, my favorite thing about cannabis for the people that you're working with, people who are dealing with chronic pain or they have anxiety, is some days you have a good day. You slept well, you didn't really torment your body the day before too much with a lot of activity, and you ate good food, and so you don't have that much pain, so you may not even need any medicine. But if you're taking a narcotic or you're taking an antidepressant or something like gabapentin or Lyrica, you've got to take your medicine or you're going to have withdrawal effects and all kinds of problems. But with cannabis, if you're feeling pretty good, you can skip it. Or if you're feeling bad, you can take, a small dose, or you can take a much larger dose. You can really do whatever you want, and you can alternate. You can manage it day to day. You take a lot less medicine because you can have some control over how much medicine you have to take.
Well, and unique. I have a friend here in Hot Springs, a very intelligent doctor, and I told him once. I said, "Well, yeah, it has really bad side effects." He said, "There's no such thing as a side effect. There are unintended causes or unintended, things that come with it, but we don't make a side effect. It just comes with it, right?" And some of the medicines that you're talking about are very, very tainted that way. You miss a couple of your regular meds, and hey, it's like starting over in some ways. I, I
Yeah.
I want to go through the process. I want to go step one, step two, step three. Just explain it very clearly for the state of Arkansas. But on top of that, when you were helping your brother, you were a medical doctor at that time, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been a doctor for
And
25 years now.
and then you felt like you weren't on top of it. Was that not just frustrating and humbling? And I mean, what?
Well, I mean, different medicines provide different support. And I
Yeah,
think
sure.
I had all of the medicines that a typical hospice patient would have, but Timmy was 56 years old, and he had a kid in high school and a kid in college. He had a lot that he just wasn't ready to go. It wasn't like managing the death of somebody who's in their 80s and who has really lived their life and been able to say their goodbyes. So there was a lot of psychic energy around that death that was much different from the experience of my mother's death and my father's death. So not everything is the same, and in some circumstances, you're using a small amount of morphine, just a touch of Ativan, and it's very simple. But I mean, and the same thing with the symptoms that people that are on your podcast are going to be dealing with. If you have anxiety, you're not necessarily at a 10 out of 10 anxiety all the time. But you do go in, you pop into these very anxious days or very anxious experiences after a trigger or just for no good reason. And then having a medicine that has basically an instant onset of action. I mean, an inhalational cannabis product, it has an onset of action of less than a minute and peaks in 9 minutes. So it's the best for managing an acute anxiety attack. And if you're in pain, the same thing. If your pain is just too high, you can take a small dose and see if it works. And then if it doesn't, you can take another inhalation. A lot of people worry about inhalations and how healthy it is to be breathing smoke into your lungs, but cannabis smoke is very different from tobacco tobacco smoke. And when you're, using tobacco, you're smoking like 12 puffs per cigarette, so like 200 puffs a day if you smoke a pack a day. But with
Wow.
cannabis, you might only smoke, 4 or 5 puffs a day if you're somewhat of a heavy user. So, and then it has THC and CBD in it, which are both very low inflammatory, healthy products. So there's a lot of ways to even make the cannabis safer if you're worried about inhalations, using gummies or using like these little toasters, these little tools that toast the cannabis instead of actually burning it, like you would if you were using it in a cigarette form. So when you toast it, you reduce the carcinogen exposure, and some people really prefer the flavor to that because the terpenes, all of the natural flavors, persist when you don't burn it. So you get all of the benefits of a lot of other components of the cannabis.
And a lot of people don't know, just FYI, you inhale something, it's in your bloodstream in literally 120 seconds, 60 to 120 seconds, it's affecting you. You say, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a pill. Okay, well, 22 to 28 minutes from now, you should feel some relief, right? Because it takes a
Yeah.
longer time for that to get in your bloodstream that way, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things, especially if you're dealing with a panic attack or if you're dealing with migraine headaches, you don't want something to work a half an hour later. You really want the onset of action and the access to the medicine right away. So the inhalational therapies are such a nice alternative in that case. It's just it's the best. And then, if you're using regular pain medications, it can slow your breathing, it can slow your heart rate, but cannabis does not. It does not interact with the respiratory centers or the cardiovascular centers. So there's no way to have your heart slow down or your breathing slow down when you're using cannabis. Super safe. And that's why the mortality is zero. Well, we can't say it's zero because there was a drug runner that had a bale of cannabis fall on him that had been inappropriately tied in the back of the truck, and he died. So we do have
You're
one
telling me
death.
so it's not 100% safe. You can be crushed by the product, is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing,
And
but that's rare, right?
if you're transporting a bale, make sure that you tie it down. But that is our
Tie your
only.
weed. Tie your weed. Well, so let me come back to this real quick. I think a lot of people, Mary, and one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, a lot of people, if they had, pardon the term, a friend in the business, a Mary, that they could come and ask reasonable questions. Is this for me? Is this what I need? Is this the deal? How would you go through that process? Because I think that I wanted to, after meeting and chatting with you a while, I thought how personable, how easygoing, how well you explained this to the people. I'm thinking this needs to be on a bigger format. We need to explain it better. So, what happens step one? What do I do step one?
Well, I mean, the easiest way to explore cannabis is to just get your cannabis card. And that's why Swifty Med comes in at such a low price. People were getting charged like $200 in Arkansas to get their card. Swifty Med cards are only $59. So your card is $59. And then after you get your documentation from me and you turn it into the state, that's another $50. Then it's only $100 basically to get started trying medical cannabis. And so you can get a card. Arkansas doesn't make it easy, but we try to make it as easy as possible for people with the work that has to be done. And then you can get your medical card and go to the dispensary and talk to the bud tender. And the bud tenders know their medicine. They know if you say, you know what, I just need help sleeping. I'm up at 11 or 12 o'clock at night every night. The bud tenders know exactly what medicine works for all the people that they see all the time. And so they can guide you toward one or two things that'll work really well. Or if you're a person who's dealing with chronic pain and you're wanting to, reduce your exposure to gabapentin or to a narcotic pain reliever, you can use different formulations for that. That's going to be a different formulation than the formulation for sleep. But all of those are available at the dispensary. And then once you get your card, you can basically shop and search and try to figure out which one is going to work best for you.
Now, how long is the card good for?
The card is good for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to be evaluated every year.
Yeah, yeah, but the first year you have to be seen in person, and we're setting up an event right by Hot Springs Village so that it's very simple for you guys to come to Socorro Shared Space and be seen there next month. And then after that, the annual renewals are all telemedical, so you don't need to be seen in person.
Hmm. And I know there's a lot of stigma involved in this, seriously. So you've done this for how many years? How many years have you been just worked primarily in this area?
10. It's been 10 years. Yeah.
So that's a lot of patience, and that's the people that are watching this may be their first time to even have a discussion about this, right? And they may
Yeah.
have been morally opposed or convictions or whatever that this may have bothered them before, but they can really see some of the benefits and say, "Well, is this for me? Who would this be for, Mary?" In your words.
Well, I mean, I think when in for most people, it really most people are getting their card because of PTSD or chronic pain. But people, there those are the qualifying conditions. You have to have a qualifying condition in Arkansas, and the other conditions are a little bit harder to get to, like cancer or seizure disorder, or other less common conditions. But people get their card for PTSD or chronic pain, but people use their card to manage depression or anxiety, to manage insomnia. It's very common to take a 10 or 20 milligram gummy an hour before it's time to go to bed, and then be able to just have a really good night's sleep. And there's a lot of people who find their sleep really evasive, especially as you get older. So, we can almost always find a reason for a card. I mean, actually, in Washington, D.C., if you're over 72, you get a card. You don't have to like go through the rigmarole of identifying a primary condition. They just give you a card because everybody's got a little arthritis or a little PTSD at that point, and there's no reason to put them through a bunch of hassles. And so I feel the same way about people in Arkansas and about people all over the country. When you get older, your sleep is either disrupted by something that you can't get off your mind, or by pain, where when you lay in bed, your hip starts to hurt or something. And so having a tool to manage sleep and anxiety is a really powerful tool to have.
Feels so much better knowing that in a mere 10 years, I can have a complaint and it's legitimate. It hurts right here, right? It hurts right here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Well, you
that
probably have a
absolutely.
legitimate. I mean, we see people with intractable pain who have had a motor vehicle accident, and they're
Yeah.
20 years old, and they've got a chronic neck injury. I mean, it's unfortunate because none of that is going to get better. Over time, most of that gets worse. So I do feel bad for what they're going through. But anyway, yeah, there's a legitimate complaint, and it responds really well to cannabis.
So let me go back through here real quick. And by the way, I wanted to ask while I'm starting this, I'm going to click through your website here, get your medical card today. We're going to click on this in just a minute. But well, first, I
Okay.
wanted to ask, can pardon the term, can regular doctors, can a gastroenterologist, can they say, boy, I know you're in a lot of pain. Let me write you a script for this. Can they, and they don't, or how does that work?
Well, they can, but if you want to do cannabis scripts, the DEA has some requirements that you have to be aware of. The state medical board also has requirements. They want you to do a certain amount of CME, and you have to be signed up with them as a cannabis doctor. So you really can't just be like, I'm going to write cards and just start doing it tomorrow. But if you wanted to, you can sign up and get everything ready with the state medical board so they know that you're working in this field. It's just it just depends. A gastroenterologist probably has a lot of other things to do and probably is not gonna get wound up about doing medical cards when there's 100 other
He
things to do.
he can't
But
wait to make $59 making a medical card. Yeah, that's a highlight of his day, right?
yeah, right,
He's gonna
right.
make
I
his
think
boat
he
payment off
makes
the $59, right?
yeah, yeah. So in Arkansas, you're clicking through here. You would just click on get your medical card today and then click on the Arkansas Swifty Med. That's one of our biggest states. So it's right up at the top. New and returning patient is sometimes a little bit of a headache. If you've seen us before, you want to make sure to mark yourself returning because otherwise it won't find your email. And then in Arkansas, you have to provide your front and back of your driver's license and also your diagnoses. And then we collect information on uh on all of the other information that we need just to be able to give you a card, like the other medications that you're on, any allergies, any personal or family history of addiction or psychosis, seeing or hearing things, schizophrenia, just so that we have all the data we need to safely prescribe this medicine to you. And then and Arkansas requires medical records for their patients. So for any of these conditions, we would have to provide medical records, except for PTSD. We can do a quiz, and then you don't. We're required to do the quiz, so there's no need to have medical records for PTSD. And then we also, if a patient has, like they've had back surgery and they have a scar on their back, or they have shoulder surgery and they can pull their shirt over and show me a scar on their shoulder, then I'm comfortable using that as a physical exam finding and we can skip the records. So I just really have to talk to the patient and find out what they're trying to do and what their existing records or physical deformities, if you will,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we could use. Because sometimes people just hold up their hands and everything is gnarled, and I say, I'm going to take a picture of that and I'm going to give you a card. We don't need to go through a whole bunch of record keeping.
I get
Like
it. I get it. I get it. Right. I get it. Yeah. I saw that. I'm good. Right. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
two other questions I want to ask you. I want to be respectful of your time, and thanks so much for joining us today,
Oh,
Dr. Mary.
thank you. This is
Two
so
two
great.
things I want to ask. Obviously, the things on the list here are the defined things, and as you said, the
Yeah.
PTSD is the only one that doesn't have to provide medical records or whatever. When will you be in this area? And when I'm sorry, I dropped the share just for a second so we could talk about when you're going to be in this area.
Yeah, I'm coming to Hot Springs Village on Tuesday, July 22nd from 9 to 5. We're going to be at the Socorro Shared Space over at 4501 North Highway 7. It's right there by the Burger King, and there's a grocery store there. It's a nice little room. And then you don't have to have a lot. You don't have to like be really good on your computer. It'd be great if you are, but if you're not, we have Gary and Melissa will be there, and Gary and Melissa just help everybody get everything turned in to Arkansas. So you won't need to, you don't. We're not going to hand you a document and then send you home, and you're going to be like, wait a minute, like what are my next steps? I don't feel comfortable going to these websites. We have Gary and Melissa there, so you come to see me because you have to see me in person in order to get a card. And then after you see me, Gary and Melissa are there and they help finish up the Arkansas. So by the time you leave, everything's turned into the Department of Health and you're on that 2-week wait before your paper card comes in the mail. And then once you get your card in the mail, you're at the dispensary.
Well, you have dated yourself just a little, Mary, just a little, because you said the Burger King. See, we tore that Burger King down about 5 years ago, and we
Oh,
put a McDonald's there.
it's a
But
McDonald's.
the other thing to add there, though, is that if you know where the subway is, it's right below the subway. Go around the back of the subway, and it's a story down. Another
Okay,
way
yeah,
to get
it is. It's like down that little drive. I
there.
didn't I eat it any, and that pizza looked good. Gary and
That
Melissa had
is the
pizza.
Amore Pizza. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So hang on. So July the 22nd, correct?
Yes, sir.
And pretty much all day. Is that right?
Yeah, July. It's a walk-in clinic, so whenever you have time, you come in Tuesday, July 22nd from 9 to 5.
And
Mhm.
I will, Audrey, we'll blow this up. I want people to know about this. Want to help support it and share that. I do want to say one other thing and ask, tell me about, because I mean, when I went to see you the other day, I'm looking and there are people rolling in wheelchairs. They're in
Yeah.
walkers.
Yeah.
Is this a fulfilling job?
Oh, is this a fulfilling job? It's fantastic. Yeah. I mean,
Really?
it's a lot of fun to give people their first card, certainly. But it's even more fun to do the renewals and then have somebody come back and say, I stopped two medications in favor of cannabis. I've stopped four medications. I stopped eight medications, or I've had people come back because, like this whole idea of getting fat because you use medical cannabis, you get the
Right.
munchies and then you're going to get fat. But actually the studies show that people who use cannabis regularly actually maintain lower body weights over their lifetime, because you release a lot of dopamine and a lot of feel good hormones when you use cannabis. And you've got to eat like four cupcakes to get the same thing from chocolate. So there's and a lot of my patients who have trouble managing their weight will use cannabis right before they eat, and then it slows gastric motility, so the food stays in your stomach longer, and also you're just so much more aware of how delicious and flavorful the food is, and that people see a nice reduction. So honestly, it's not that unusual for people to come back the next year and say, I just lost 25 pounds, and I didn't do anything. I just the only thing I changed was the cannabis, and I was able to get off. But some of these antidepressants make it really hard to understand where your appetite is, you know?
Yeah, well, and you tickled me there just a minute. You said that's the same as four cupcakes. I'm like, Mary, that sounds like empirical evidence. Like how many cupcakes.
Yeah.
Okay, one, yeah, no, there's more.
Wait, not quite there,
Oh,
not quite there.
this scientific research is killing me. I'm telling you.
Oh, I have an old friend that's an addiction treatment specialist, and he talks about cupcake ratios when people try to get off meth, really serious addictive drugs, and just
Yeah.
how hard, how people usually gain so much weight. So cannabis is great there too to help you reduce your exposure to other more addictive substances. I think there's a reason why it's been in such prohibition for so long, because
Right.
it really is such a great drug for so many reasons. It really should be in the front of your medicine cabinet, just like aspirin and Tylenol.
Do you think there's going to be a time when we're finally going to study it and decriminalize? I say decriminalize. That's not even a fair term. Is there going to be a time when we have a rational look at cannabis?
I really wonder that, because like there was just a cannabis related article in one of my online journal clubs, and I opened up the comments expecting doctors to be talking about cannabis like a real drug, and a whole bunch of them had nothing but negative things to say. So I think broader attempts at legalization and at ending the prohibition are going to always be met with a lot of resistance, unfortunately. And in Arkansas for sure, in places like Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, there's just it's complex, and out west, there's
Really?
still, yeah, a lot of states that are still, I mean, it's only legal in 34 states now. So there's still quite a few states where you can't access cannabis at all legally.
Well, and let me give as an example the federal law that supersedes in some places. The fact of the matter is that many of the people watching this might think, well, I pay for this card, and then I pay for the exam, then I
Yeah.
submit to the state for my card, and then I'll
Mhm.
go and just swipe my card at the dispensary. No, no, you won't. You have to have cash, right?
Oh, well, I swiping your card, I was confused. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
it is the credit card processing in the dispensaries is a whole nother podcast. But there's There are some companies that are making it possible to swipe a credit card in the dispensary. There's, that is, but yeah, by and large, you're going to have cash to make
Well,
sure
I'm,
that.
I'm thinking also the people that maybe have never been to a dispensary, and I've worked with some is one of the reasons I talk about this. There's more cameras than Carter has little liver pills in one of these places, and people don't understand that. I mean, they're monitoring the traffic, they're monitoring the inventory, they're monitoring the employees, they're monitoring the cash that comes and goes. This is not an unregulated business by any stretch. Would you say that?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. In fact, the cameras are on the product from seed to sale. Every product that is finally dispersed to a consumer has been monitored right from the time that it was that the seed was planted. It's yeah, that's there's I don't think you have to worry about I mean, the nice, really brilliant, amazing thing is that you really don't have to worry about contamination or getting something that you don't want in your medicine, or they have these they have systems in the grows, in the production facilities, so that the products are coming from like a mother plant, and then so that every time you get that product, they're growing it with the same fertilizer ratios, the same lighting, the same heat, so that you get the same product every time you get it. So if you find a
Okay.
product that's working for you, as long as it's in stock, you're going to get the same thing, which is really nice. Really.
That's awesome. Mary,
Mhm.
it has been awesome. I appreciate your time. July the 22nd, roughly 9 to 5, under Subway or behind where the Burger King used to be. And you can go by. I mean, walk-ins are welcome. You just fill out the form and talk to you.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. What we like people to do is pre-register. Get on
Yeah.
SwiftMed, get pre-registered, and then we'll do a little video so that I can make sure that you have all the information you need. I can send you the schedule, and if you need to get medical records, I can help you understand how to do that. But if all of that is just like nuts to that, I just want to walk in. Just walk in. We can help you same day too. But we
Okay.
usually have
Mary. It's been a
upwards of
pleasure.
90% of patients pre-registered, and that makes it so that we can see a lot more patients in a day than if we
Okay.
have to start, putting people through a process.
How long is this? If I'm pre-registered, 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, what?
Oh, like 2 minutes. Yeah, you see me
Really?
long enough for me to transfer the documents to you, and then off you go. But if you need help, then you can stay put for another 15 minutes and work with Gary and Melissa. But if you don't need help, if you are comfortable with your computer, yeah, you're in and out in a few minutes.
Okay. Mary, it's been a pleasure. See you on July 22nd, okay?
Okay, hopefully I'll see a bunch of your friends and other people at Hot Springs Village.
Hope so too. See you soon, Mary. Thanks. Bye bye. Don't delay. Call Janae. Janae Cook, Taylor Realty, 501-617-9747. Whether you're buying, selling, or just considering. Oh, we don't need a realtor yet. Yes, you do. Don't delay. Call Janae. 501-617-9747. Hot Springs Village Venues is brought to you by KVRE at 92.9 and streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. KVRE is your family-owned local hometown radio station, so be sure and tune in for live local programming, news, sports, and information every day at 92.9. HSV Radio. HSV Radio is heard every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. or streaming on any of the major platforms. Hot Springs Village Radio is an eclectic mix of music, motivation, great music history, and Saturday morning fun. Join us every Saturday morning at 9 a.m., 92.9. And brought to you by the Hot Springs Village Voice, Hot Springs Village only newspaper.
also serving all of Saline and Garland County. Your local newspaper for local events. No one else has more local news than the Hot Springs Village Voice about the Hot Springs Village area. Sign up today at hsvvoice.com or call 501-623-6397. Again, that's 501-623-6397. Located at 3576 North Highway 7 in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, just in front of Walmart. Brought to you by Gotta Go Vacations. www.gottagovacations.com. Troy Woods and Patrick Cunningham at 501-204-4805 can help you with any of your travel needs. Patrick and Troy have been airline stewards for decades, and their experience and their travel can serve you well. GottaGoVacations.com, again, that's GottaGoVacations.com, can help you book the perfect tour for you, whether it's a riverboat cruise up the Mississippi or the Rhine. These guys are who you need to call. 501-204-4805. Troy or Patrick, 501-204-4805. GottaGoVacations.com. D&D Village Properties. Hot Springs Village only short-term rental with over 2,100 five-star reviews. All properties are lakefront. They include complimentary kayaks, hot tub, pet-friendly, and a stunning view of the lake. Visit DD Village Prop today for your vacation getaway.